We are live once again on the Hannibal TV on YouTube with another news show. This is a busy week leading into WrestleMania on the weekend in Las Vegas, and there's a lot to talk about. But before we get into all of that, and I introduce the godfather of the Hannibal TV, Hannibal himself, I want to shout out to all our friends in the Emerald Isle of Ireland, as this is a historic broadcast. For the first time ever, we are simulcasting on the Cheap Heat Productions network and look forward to many more such endeavors in the future. It's an exciting time all the way around. Hannibal, I know you're excited about Mania coming up this weekend, no?
Oh, yeah, I'm pumped for Mania. Coming up in just a few days, I'll be hopping on that jet to Las Vegas. But yeah, I am pumped. Looking forward to going to Las Vegas. Not necessarily for the cards, but I've actually known Rick Bassman since 2006, and I've never met him before in person. So as we change our background here, which was an accident, I am going to be in Las Vegas hanging out with Rick Bassman, Dan Severin, Don Fry, Tank Abbott, Josh Barnett, a whole host of others, Butterbean, at various events, helping cover it for the Hannibal TV. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited about it.
Well, I certainly can see how that will be a very engaging time frame. But man, like I said, it seemed to be news leading up to Mania was a little less, but now it's bumping.
There's the poster, by the way, for the Combat Icons in Las Vegas. I'm pumped for it. They're going to be at WrestleCon, at the Westgate Hotel, and various other events. So that's going to be pretty cool. I do think it is very flat heading into WrestleMania. I don't see a whole lot of buzz. I mean, The Rock did wear that New Japan shirt over the weekend, got people talking, but again, like, are they talking about the match or are they talking about that The Rock wore a New Japan shirt?
Yeah. We'll definitely get into that story as Meltzer commented on it. But I wanted to get your impression immediately with a couple of stories that just popped up this morning. The first being Karrion Kross. He made a comment with respect to the fact that he doesn't have a WrestleMania match in his hometown of Las Vegas, but he said, I'll be waking up next to Scarlett Bordeaux or something along those lines. What is it with Karrion Kross and his tenures in WWE? He just can't seem to catch a break.
Well, the minimum pay for WWE is $350,000 a year, so I'm not going to feel too bad for him because he's making that. He is definitely from Las Vegas because last time I was in Las Vegas, I attended a Future Stars of Wrestling training camp that people could look up here that Kazarni, another former WWE superstar, runs, and they were saying Karrion Kross is affiliated with that camp. I've met him. He seems like a really nice guy. He's got the look. I've seen him wrestle. He seems mechanically good. Seen some of his promos. He seems decent at promos. So I don't know why they're not pushing him more, because I think Triple H did like him. I think at one point he was fired and they brought him back because they got so much negative fan publicity for him. I mean, they did try to get him over. They gave him a whole faction. They brought in Paul Ellering, those Indian guys.
AOP.
AOP. I mean, they did try, so it's not like they haven't tried it, everything. But if I were him, I'd be a little bit more concerned because he seems to be at the point right now where they're, again, letting him do indies. I believe he's going to be at Bloodsport on the weekend. They're either going to bring him back with another little push, or he could suffer the same fate as Ellering in the AOP. I think he has more of an upside, and he has a lot more of an upside than a lot of wrestlers they have under contract. So I would think they would give him another chance. But yeah, I'm not going to feel bad for a guy that's banging Scarlett Bordeaux and is making 350 grand a year. I mean, he's still living the dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But yeah, nice guy, and I wish him the best.
Well, hopefully they can find something that clicks for him. The news item this morning that I referenced that came up, apparently Jeff Cobb is done with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and according to Dave, is WWE bound. I met him in Cauliflower Alley several years ago in Vegas. Really nice guy, and think he has a hell of an upside. Where do you think he'll fit in the packed WWE locker room?
Well, they are packed, but that's a guy, again, there's a war going on, WWE versus AEW. Is he going to be the next Steve Austin or Hulk Hogan? I don't know, but he's big. He's a former amateur wrestler, Olympian in Guam. So I guess even though he lived a lot of his life in the U.S., he was able to represent Guam in the Olympics. He's popular among the independent wrestling fans. It's interesting that he seems to be the type of guy, other than he's big, but he seems to be the type of guy that AEW would have really gone after being so over in New Japan. I guess he was even living in Japan, but I guess the way things look for AEW right now, if I was a wrestler, even if AEW would offer me a little bit more money, I think I might strongly more consider WWE, just because the difference in popularity is so much right now. And a lot of people are getting lost in the shuffle in AEW. I mean, who is the last guy that really got over and stayed over that AEW has made? I mean, I know they got Orange Cassidy over to a level. To a level he got over. I'm not going to say he's the most over guy in the company, but like, they're trying with Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay's over, but like he's no guy that's going around selling out buildings.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting around 2,000-ish to most of their shows, including comps. And I heard they've even been doing 30% off tickets for their upcoming pay-per-view in Arizona. So yeah, Jeff Cobb, I think he's making a good decision, likely going to WWE. I think he's also from the Las Vegas area, because I remember Jenny Santana was training at Future Stars of Wrestling as well. And one of the videos that she sent me of her training involved Jeff Cobb in it. So at one point, he was also going there to train. So I don't know. I wish him the best. He seems like a nice guy. There's a lot of people, as you said, both companies are packed. There's a lot of people, I think, in both companies not being used or not being used to their full potential, but that's just because of whatever reason, time restrictions, or there's only so many top stars you can have. WWE's doing a better job of it. How many would you say? I think there's like maybe eight to 10 like upper echelon guys in WWE at the very top of the card.
Yeah,
where AEW, I don't even know. I don't know who is at the top of the card in AEW that's actually drawing. Is there anybody?
Tony Storm is quite popular.
Tony Storm. I know like Will Ospreay's known. He's one of their top guys. Moxley's one of their top guys. Edge is one of their top guys. Now it looks like Jericho is at least taking an extended break. Who knows if he'll ever be back? But there seems to be a bigger group of people that have a lot of star power at the top of WWE than AEW. However, they don't have anyone to the level of Brock Lesnar's level, who they're still not using due to all of that negative publicity they got over him a few years ago.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you make about taking Cobb probably getting less money in AEW. I don't know if you heard Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez talk about Mariah May, who was a standout in the AEW women's division. Apparently, she's on her way out and posted some cryptic stuff. They gave her quite a good push, and she was making a lot of money. And they're saying that in all likelihood, she's going to make a lot less or less in WWE, but she's opting to go there. So that seems to be a legitimate phenomenon that's occurring right now.
And I don't know if it's official or not yet, but it was going around in the news that Britt Baker may have actually got her release now. And I do
Yes,
think that, like, there's another one. Did she ever actually really have that feud with Mercedes Moné? Because I think two of the people they should have at least had feud with Moné or having feature matches before they let them go would be Baker and Paige. Those, because Baker was like a staple of AEW, but I know there was behind the scenes drama that kind of screwed her, but it's still, if you're paying her all that money, at least do some type of match with her and Banks before, or sorry, her and Mercedes Moné before you let Baker go. That would just be my thoughts on it.
And have her do the job. Speaking of Paige Saraya, she was interviewed recently and said, I felt like I wasn't giving it my entire all these past couple of years. I know I was frustrated with myself. She said, if I do wrestle again, I'm going to step outside of it for a year, indicating that she'll be focused on recovery and preparation rather than in-ring competition. She cites her performances suffering from her neck injury, and she's going to be rehabbing that. But she says, when I do come back, I'm going to come back to being how I wrestled before, because I felt I wasn't giving it my all the past couple of years. She was frustrated with herself, and she did not, did address the WWE return rumor, saying that I just want people to know that I haven't had any conversations with them, haven't spoken to them in any way. And I think that also falls in with what you're saying about head scratchers not putting her with Monet. That was rumored for a while, and it never came to pass. But I don't know if she's saying she was phoning it in, or what do you make of that?
I don't know, but I would have at least had those two wrestle, because at one point Paige was the most famous women wrestler in the world. At one point, then there was all the drama that happened that we won't get into, because you could write a book on it. And if they had actually, The Rock even did a movie about Paige at one point. That's how popular she was.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't do any of the controversial stuff, which would have actually made it a great movie. But yeah, I think that they should bring Paige in as like a general manager or something, at least on NXT. Just because I did like Paige when she first came in. I'll be honest with her. I didn't think she was bad, and I think she could have done more in AEW than she did. I don't think they used her well. There was a lot of buzz when she came in. It's still glued in my head when you and I went to that AEW show last year. That girl that was dressed up as Paige in the crowd at a show she was advertised for, and they didn't even use her. And for some reason, by the way, just to follow up on our last podcast, still nothing about AEW coming to Canada. They have not been to Canada since last year's Owen Hart Cup. I don't know if the Owen Hart Cup is going to happen in Canada or not this year. You would assume it would, but WWE has announced 2 upcoming tapings in Canada, in Montreal and Quebec City, Quebec. So, I mean, they're still gonna come enough to say that they still come to Canada, but this must be so far the least they've ever came, because they had Elimination Chamber and then only 2 other matches. I assume there might be some more added, but I mean, this has to be a record for Canada.
Yeah, only 2 Canadian dates out of a 10-date stretch of Raw and SmackDowns. The first being Friday, August 8th, SmackDown in Montreal, and Monday, August 11th in Quebec City for Raw. Nothing in Ontario, nothing in the prairies as of yet. And you're right, that's sure a far cry from back in the day when they were hitting small cities, let alone Maple Leaf Gardens and places across the board, bigger ones.
Yeah, well, you would think they haven't even been to the East Coast forever, and I came across and posted it on the Hannibal TV Facebook page the other day. At one point, they were going to the East Coast so often that even Hulk Hogan did a house show in Halifax, which is unbelievable that Hulk Hogan wrestled in Halifax. But you would think at least they would do Vancouver, which they did the Survivor Series at in November. But you would think every year they would at least run Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec City, Toronto, and Vancouver. But I guess we'll see how the rest of the year plays out. And whether they go to Ottawa or not, because I think the only year since I started wrestling that they never came to Ottawa at all was 1994. I believe that was the only year WWE in its history since its expansion didn't come to Ottawa. So that would be interesting. And it's the other interesting thing is you would think with WWE not coming to Canada, AEW might jump in there because in theory they wouldn't have any competition. But some of it might also have to do with the horrible exchange rate, where I think it's usually $1.44 right now. So I mean they have to make more money to overcompensate for the really bad exchange rate.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sure that that definitely works into it, and they're all about profit. The new entity that we've talked about lots and lots, and including about ticket prices. And interestingly, a couple of items on Triple H. He said that complaining on the internet by fans is not real life. He said, here's the beautiful thing about our world. The internet is not real life, and the bitching and complaining that is on there is not real life. You could read the internet and it'll sound like this thing is dead. I'll use Cody Rhodes, for example. Cody's already jumped the shark. He's dead as a babyface. He goes, really? I don't know. In an arena of 10 to 15,000 people every night going ape shit for me, selling the most merchandise. But sure, whatever you want to say on the internet, that's the golden rule. It's just the opinion of a few people. Kind of how would you say, Hannibal, tone deaf given the criticism of the ticket prices for Mania as well as all those add-on deals?
Again, I do think that Triple H, and I mean he's financially set for life, but I do believe he will be the scapegoat eventually when it catches up to him all of this ridiculous ticket prices and the not that great of a product. For how much they keep making things better, the product's not getting better, and even the star power is going down. Like another interesting thing, Hogan isn't seen anywhere for the upcoming WrestleMania. By the way, Isbin, hello to you. And the latest on Rusev, according to Meltzer, he has signed. Lana last week had not signed, but they are back together, and he could, in theory, debut at any time. Track down Sean Royal for an interview. I have no idea who that is, but I'm sure Gentleman Jack does.
One of the new breed, that tag team in Jim Crockett Promotions that were getting quite a push, and then things kind of fell apart. His partner, unfortunately, is passed, and it's funny. I did look for Sean Royal in the past and was unsuccessful. But we've had a couple of fan requests lately that we're working on tracking down.
And I am interviewing Brutus Beefcake too, by the way, not to interrupt, but at 12 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, right here, Brutus, the freaking barber Beefcake. And one last thing before I'll let Jack finish. The guy asking about all the paranormals and UFO stuff. I am going to do one UFO podcast a week minimum with UFO car heel Casey. This week, it might just be Casey on his own since I'm heading to Vegas for WrestleMania week, but we are going to get the UFO news here on the Hannibal TV. Back going again. Mike D, maybe I will run into Mike McGurk or Nails at WrestleMania this weekend. If I do, I will try and get interviews. 100%. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem at all. We just had a request for Ian Rotten and John Zandig from CZW, and we're going to look into those for sure. And don't forget, fans, we are going to be in Philadelphia at TWA One and Done on May the 3rd, and there you're going to see some mega stars at the WrestleCon, from Ric Flair, the headliner, and my goodness, everyone else in between that will be there. And we're going to be getting some interviews with them, I'm
Flair
sure.
and Shane Douglas in the ECW arena. It's finally going to happen. Ric Flair and Shane Douglas in the ECW arena.
Very
That will
good.
be historic. That,
Yes.
as I said, if you're in the Philly area, and I think Philly is the 5th most popular city in the whole world on this channel. I know there's a lot of Philly people watching this channel. Out of the 3 events coming to ECW Arena next month, One and Done is going to be the most historic. I guarantee it. And there's some developments in my match, but let's just say it's going up a level. And Don Fry and I are going to have a little announcement about that later this week. And it doesn't have to do with Don Fry being part of that show. He's just going to be with me when I talk about it.
Yeah, and fans, if you haven't already saw the episode last night of TWA Countdown to TWA One and Done with the Heart Killer Chris Wilde, he's in the main event for the last ever TWA Heavyweight Championship against Breaker Morant. Search that up from last night on this channel. That man is a very formidable talent, and I am really looking forward to that main event now. So check that out if you haven't already.
And Ibsen asked Mike McGurk if I can talk to her and ask her if she's going to be in Vegas, because I will legit interview her in Vegas if you're in contact with her. I used to be, but I've fallen out of contact with her. But I'm up for that. And Mike's going to fund it. Mike's going to give me a very large tip for that Mike McGurk interview. Just like he's going to give Jack one, because not only did he get Kato, he got Tanaka, who, by the way, I have to say this, and this is a bit controversial. And yes, I do take Kratom, which is perfectly legal here and there. The Hulk brand, which, by the way, isn't put out by the Hulkster, but it's a good one to take before you work out. But the weirdest thing happened in Pat Tanaka's interview with John Paz that I posted on his channel last night. Right at the end, he disappears off the screen. He sounds like he's on the floor, and you hear some scraping type sound, almost like a credit card scraping against a plate or ceramic tile, as if something is being chopped up. I'm just saying, that's what it sounds like. It could be anything. And then when he comes back on the screen, it's basically to say, "Yeah, sorry, I got to go. Sorry to cut this short." Weird podcast. He seems like a nice guy. My favorite part about that tag team was their music. Other than that, I mean, they were part of my childhood, but I found that so weird. You disappear off camera, weird scraping sounds, like something's being chopped up, then you just disappear. Why not just, if you're going to do that, if that's what you were doing, and this is just a theory, why not just end it and do that? Because it was so suspicious how he did that.
Well, he could have been preparing a meal and had to add the onions prior to it burning or whatnot. But I will say about Pat, I really enjoyed our interview. We went about an hour and a half, very in depth, and he did not hold back. Very honest and self-deprecating guy. And I think, fans, if you haven't seen the one that I did on Sunday with Pat, check that one out, because I think it's the most complete and the most.
It's an extra half hour too. It's an extra. It's so yeah. Only on the Hannibal TV are you going to find 2.5 hours of brand new Pat Tanaka content in 2025. And thanks for doing that interview, Jack. It was enjoyable to listen to.
Our next Triple H story is kind of an interesting one. He, on that same
Ibsen,
podcast,
Jack has interviewed Kato twice, and I've interviewed him once.
Yeah, last year.
Kato. We need to get Kato, Sato, and Tanaka, all 3 of them. We need to get them together, and we need to have a seance and try and summon up the ghost of Mr. Fuji.
Or get Paul Diamond and Pat Tanaka on with DDP and have a Bad Company reunion podcast. I think that would go over with the AWA fans.
The only problem with DDP is almost every question you ask, it somehow and he's a great promoter, but it somehow gets reversed into a DDP yoga question. He's the ultimate salesman, but DDP yoga, it does help, man. If I go a day without doing it, I notice it.
Yeah, 100%. Triple H on that same podcast was commenting.
Ivan, and I love cutting Jack off. That's the theme of today's, but it's going to be DDP cutting inducting, as we discussed on our last podcast.
Yes. The Sting speculation didn't pan out. He was talking about, I'll summarize it because it was a very long comment, but he started talking about his relationship with Vince McMahon. And when they first started DX, they would go out there and basically do their thing. And then he would get very angry and say, we're going to get thrown off the air. Don't do that again. And he and Sean would say, whatever. And they'd go out and do it again. And when it started to get over, Vince became somewhat controlling over what was to be said. And he said that only increased over the years. As he got older, he would get more controlling and provide some really, there's always that speculation about the ideas that would make it on TV that were less than inspiring. And Triple H said that, Pat Patterson, others would talk to Vince, and he was so dead set against moving away from an idea he liked, and especially really scripting every word that was said. And that wasn't how it was back when, at least when DX started. So as he got older, Vince got more controlling. I think that was pretty obvious. Don't you, Hannibal?
Yeah, I kind of stopped watching it and tuned out after a certain point. But to be honest, I hope, as I've said many times in this, I hope Vince McMahon starts another company. And I think people saying stuff like this about Vince, if he sees it, is only going to light a fire under him to possibly start something. Because again, when Triple H took over, there was a mix-up. Some things got better. But now we're at a point where that's pretty much got staled, in my opinion. And we need something else. AEW also has got stale. I don't think anyone's going to argue on that. Originally, they were going to go back to old school, and it was going to be like the wrestling you grew up with in your childhood, and it's become far from that. So I hope something new starts. I don't bet on it, but I also hope that something happens for WrestleMania this week, that The Rock returns, or Steve Austin gets a bigger role in it, or something to make to make it a little bit more interesting this week. Because to me, it's just a flat week. And when Vince was leading into WrestleMania, I don't think Vince would have let a WrestleMania build up be this flat, because it kind of just, maybe I'm wrong. Has Cody and Cena even touched each other in any of these promos, or has it just been talk every single promo?
Cody, in one exchange, gave him the finisher, the Crossroads, and left him laying type of deal. He sold it like he was shot. Cena did.
All right, well, we'll see. What do you guys think? Who do you think's going to win? Let me know in the comments. I'm really hoping it's Cena. I'm not excited about watching the match or anything. I'm a big Rock fan, and I'm still disappointed that we're not getting either The Rock against Roman Reigns or The Rock against Cody Rhodes. So I don't think anything could make up for that. But someone that doesn't even watch wrestling the other day was asking me about Roman Reigns, because they saw me on the internet and a picture of him came up, because he looks like such a star. So I think the other thing about wrestling right now is Cody Rhodes hasn't been a sufficient enough replacement for how over Roman Reigns was, because he was crazy over.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Speaking of The Rock, Dave Meltzer commented on the post that you referenced earlier, Hannibal, about The Rock wearing the Japan shirt and messing around with a Rubik's Cube. And although he attempted to decode what that meant, he said that he was only merely speculating, but this is what he said. There's many different guesses you can do, but the Rubik's Cube, clearly, I think the idea is we're one step ahead of you guys, and whatever this shirt is meant to lead to all kinds of speculation that we're ahead of you. He said about the shirt itself that he thinks The Rock may be trying to convince people of one of two things. It's either something that make people think that they're going to do some deal with New Japan, or make you think that The Rock is unhappy that he's been iced out of the WrestleMania promotions, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, he's going to show up on Sunday and do whatever he's going to do Sunday. What do you make of that, sir?
I think it's interesting that he wore the New Japan shirt. It's interesting because I know Mercedes Moné, she holds a New Japan title, right?
Yeah.
And then don't the Young Bucks regularly appear in New Japan? They have an appearance coming up. They do that Forbidden Door pay-per-view together. So there's a lot of deep AEW ties with New Japan. And here's The Rock, who owns a huge amount of stock in TKO, which owns WWE. He's on the board of directors for WWE as well, wearing a New Japan shirt. So is this? And we know WWE has been messing with AEW with some underhanded tactics. How much would it screw AEW up if WWE just like buys New Japan from out from under AEW? That would be interesting, and I hope it happens. I hope that's what it is, but it could just be The Rock trying to get people talking, which he did. That was the news of the day on Sunday. But to me, Japan is dead. And I tell this story, okay, and I'll tell it again. And you guys are my fans, so you'll understand it. They're looking for people right now that are not at all like Bruiser Brody or Vader or Stan Hansen. They're hiring like these acrobatic types, and that's Japan has turned into like the Will Ospreay style and this Jack Sabre Jr. like flippity doodah style, and that's not the style they were doing when it was at its all-time peak in popularity. So I think something needs to change. New Japan, I can't recall them ever having business as bad as it is right now. They have a lot of shows under 2,000 fans, a champion that's not very well known as far as being a household name. I genuinely hope that the WWE buys it, because if they do that, that will just lead to more shakeups, and wrestling needs a shakeup right now. But it could be interesting. I mean, The Rock, if you look at his family members, it's Haku's guys, the Haku sons and everything, who were over in Japan. So and now that WWE is not running that many shows, they could technically get something good going in Japan. So why not buy New Japan? I know somebody commented on the video that I made talking about that the company that owns it now is a multi-billion-dollar company. Apparently, I don't know anything about that, but business is not good over there right now. So I hope something shakes it up. I'm all for like shakeups and stuff that makes wrestling more interesting.
Yeah, and their expansion into the U.S. market, to say the least, was not a success either. So something's needed there. I think you're 100% right. Speaking of new developments,
what do you think it's about? Let's get your opinion, and fans, you tell me in the comments too. What do you honestly think it's about? I think they're at least in negotiations to buy it. That's my opinion. Whether they would or not, I don't know.
He could just be trying to get the tongues wagging, which certainly he's good at that on social media. But yeah, let's hope there are some negotiations underway, because that would certainly put a nice angle on it.
Let's just remind people, technically, I am still the IWGP champion, because back in 2014, the last peak that New Japan had was when AJ Styles was their champion. He was killing it over there in Japan. Then he was coming to the US and Canada and drawing very, very big crowds. He was so hot that WWE ended up signing him. And at that point, he was in his 40s, and they weren't signing people in their 40s at that time. But I actually pinned AJ Styles, not once, but twice. It was a best 2 out of 3 falls match. So technically, I am still the New Japan champion. He'll use the excuse that, oh, it was only your Canadian title that was on the line that night. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, I pinned you twice when you were champion. So at the very least, I should get a shot at whoever is the title holder for New Japan to see if they can beat me, because I'm technically still champion since I defeated AJ Styles twice in one night back in August of 2014.
And details matter. Speaking of new initiatives this year for the Hall of Fame, everybody is aware that they're introducing the immortal moment of a WrestleMania match, and that involves Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin, that WrestleMania 13 classic encounter. But Bret had a recent interview where he talked about one match that will not be in that category, and that was WrestleMania in 1995. He said he loathed his I Quit match with Bob Backlund, and he blames Vince for that. He says, I love Bob Backlund. He's one of my favorite guys, but the match with Bob Backlund, the I Quit match that I had at WrestleMania 11, I knew it was going to be a disaster, and I always thought that was my least greatest match. I don't blame Bob. I don't blame myself. I blame Vince, the guy that came up with the concept for the match. It was a dud before we walked out. I feel bad that we didn't have a great match. In fact, I love the match I had with Bob Backlund at Survivor Series. If people question my greatness, I'd like to have seen Hulk Hogan wrestle Bob Backlund. I'd like to have seen Shawn Michaels wrestle Bob Backlund, or Triple H wrestle Bob Backlund the way that I did. Wow, a lot to unpack there, Hannibal, in terms of his thoughts on the match, who's to blame, and some of the other little shots, I guess you would say, he threw in at the end.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Backlund was over around that time. And wrestling was not great around that time either. So I don't know. I wasn't really paying that much attention to it in these days, but I thought Backlund was over as a heel. So I have nothing against him having that match. I mean, who else was he going to wrestle around that time? It's not something I think about that much. I don't really go back and do the what ifs. What do you think?
Well, I kind of enjoyed it. Being a younger fan, I thought anything with Bret during that time frame was pretty darn good, and I enjoyed Bob Backlund's heel turn with the run for president and all that stuff that he got into. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't looking at it from a critical, artistic perspective, I guess, that he would have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with Bret. I mean, and I don't know why I put that up. That was an accident. That was had to do with my interview with Pat Rose yesterday. What I was trying to put up was a picture of me with the IWGP title from that night. Let's see if it works this time for the fans. I like to provide backup when I say something. So let me provide the backup right now. Speaking of Bob Backlund, who was a great amateur wrestler, I have interviewed him several times, and apparently he's suffering from dementia right now. So
yes,
I hate to hear that, and I hope it's nothing too bad. But there I am with that title that I should have just brought home that night and kept it, because you know what? It suits my whole outfit. And by the way, after that match, Jericho, I was doing that look before Jericho started using it as well. So
yes,
there you go. And the match got over 100,000 views on YouTube.
Yeah, you should have ran home with that. Nobody would have been able to stop you. That's for sure. Before we get to our last story of this broadcast, there was an interesting little piece about Ric Flair where he took to Twitter. I guess it was yesterday. Kind of without a context, but he shared his thoughts about his place amongst the greatest talkers in wrestling history. And he said, quote, "I'm the greatest talker in the history of the wrestling business. There's no doubt about it. My promos speak for themselves. Woo." I think that probably wouldn't get too many arguments.
No, I don't know if he's the absolute greatest, but I mean there's a bunch of people whose promos I could listen to all day, and Ric Flair's up there. I love his. I love Road Warrior Hawks for whatever reason. I like the Ultimate Warriors, Hulk Hogan. There's so many from that era. Even Nash, I think, is underrated. I mean, he's not yelling and screaming, but he, I think, is the master of the cool, laid back promo. And I have posted a bunch of clips from Kevin Nash's training seminar that he did in Philadelphia on this channel. And I have to say, I really enjoyed his training insights. And he's definitely underrated as far as my opinion of Nash. And I really enjoyed wrestling him. I did not beat him, though. I'll give him the credit. He did cheat. Low blows are not legal in wrestling, but he did beat me.
Only due to chicanery. That match is a good one, and it's on the Hannibal TV. I would search it up if you haven't. And our final story is talking about Goldberg, a guy that you referenced coincidentally enough in the last news broadcast. In an interview with Ariel Helwani, he discussed his retirement plans, mentioning that a potential opponent or opponents for a final run would be from Braun Breaker to Gunther. His last match was in 2022 when he lost to Roman Reigns at the Elimination Chamber. But Meltzer previously reported that the original plans were working with Gunther, and he showed a picture of himself in training at the Black Diamond Martial Arts Academy, and then he's integrating MMA training into his regimen. So I think we could shortly be seeing a Goldberg run in 2025. Are you excited about that one?
I hear he's going to have his last match at SummerSlam. I would love, and I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't do this other than they don't want to, but I would love to see another streak of him just beating guys week after week leading into his final match. I know I'll get heat for this, but I would rather watch and I have nothing against Will Ospreay. I mean, I understand there's a group of fans that like that style of wrestling, and I don't hate them for it. If you like that, have at it. But I'm a Goldberg fan. I'm an Ultimate Warrior fan. I'm a Road Warriors fan. I'm also a Ric Flair fan, but Goldberg just has that intensity, and nobody has that today. I mean, the closest would be Braun Breaker, who I think they've made some mistakes bringing in, like having Sammy's. I mean, he's still going to overcome these mistakes that they made. But like when they had Sami Zayn beat Braun Breaker shortly after he came in, to me it just showed too much of a chink in his armor. Breaker should have come in with the Goldberg push. Then, and I know Goldberg would have put Breaker over, build that up to Goldberg against Breaker in the retirement match and have Breaker beat Goldberg. Like to me, they dropped the ball with Breaker, who is still a big star, but he could be a bigger star at this point, in my opinion. He has the most upside of anyone in WWE, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a very solid assessment. But Hannibal, you've got a busy week ahead of you, and the Beefcake interview, the very popular.
In 10 minutes, I'm interviewing Brutus Beefcake. Have you ever met Brutus Beefcake?
You know what? I did. Back in 1999, there was a big independent show in London, Ontario, and he was there as part of a huge fan fest. I remember that distinctly. I still have the Polaroid somewhere meeting him. It was right after his WCW run. I was talking to him about being how much I enjoyed the Disciple gimmick. And of course, he had the shears. And the other highlight of that event was the Iron Sheik was there, and he had the Persian clubs. And my buddies and I gave it a go. And when we started to swing them, Sheik pulled the rug out from us, but very memorable. There were other stars there. Hammer was there too. Greg Valentine was there too. I've got a few Polaroids from that. Yeah, but Brutus was very, very gracious, and he was as big as a house still then.
I've heard that Greg might not be in the best health. I'll ask Beefcake about that if he could confirm it. But I tried to reach Greg last time I was in Vegas. 2 times ago, I talked to him, but I couldn't get a hold of him the last time. But yes, fans, right here on the Hannibal TV, look it up on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button because I'm interviewing Beefcake. Then tomorrow, I'm off to fabulous Las Vegas, where I will be following around this group of combat sports legends. And I'm even going to be attending RVD's 420 party on Sunday. And before the 420 party, Rick Bassman is going to be wrestling in a midget battle royal. So I'm going to have a crazy amount of footage on this channel in the coming days and weeks. So please subscribe to the Hannibal TV. Our next milestone is 500,000, and we're not that far off. So everyone tune in 10 minutes. Brutus Beefcake live interview. He will take fan questions. Wish everyone a wonderful day.
That's it, fans. Thanks for tuning in. As Hannibal said, subscribe to the channel and like this